When we do feasibility analysis, one of the things we really try and stress is help the students make use of the resources that most universities have stashed somewhere. Part of this is actually helping them understand that there's a lot of information out there, and the trick is simply to find it, and to find it very quickly, because in real life you'll see a lot of different opportunities. You need to begin to screen them quickly and move on. So one of the things that we have is sessions on using the databases that are out there. Mintel is a database that focuses on marketing. Ibis World and Business and Company and Resource Center give you information on whole industries as well as individual companies. When thinking about your industry, the industry you're hoping to go into, the industry you're analyzing, we tell them there are really two things that are very important to look for. One is to figure out the trend. Right now would be a terrible time to go into the telephone landline business, because people are moving away from having landlines, moving on to their cell phone. So if someone came up and said, I want to start a telephone company out in rural Missouri, we would say, take a look at where the industry is, and the fact is that industry is in decline. On the other hand, if you were making applications for smartphones, iPhones, Androids, and the like, going dramatically. And so that one is a trend going up. What the other question that we have students look for an answer for is, what is the national market size? Had a student who is a MD come in, and he has a great piece of technology for radiologists. It would cost maybe $5,000 a pop. We said, okay, that's great. He could explain the need. He could explain how it would be useful. How many radiologists are there in America? And it turns out there may be, 6,000. And so he said, that's your total market. How much of that market do you think you could get? And he started thinking about it, realizing it's just a couple hundred people if he were lucky. So suddenly he discovered that's not a very big market. For things like artwork, we're hoping to have a large market. For a lot of consumer products, you're hoping for very large markets. There are other sets of information you find out there to help students understand what kind of, what the financials are for different kinds of businesses. We all are going to have, regardless of your area, you're going to have students come to you and say, I want to start a restaurant. And it's a dream of so many people. One of the fastest ways to sort of get them off that notion is to have them go look at what the real numbers are for restaurants. Where can you go do this? RMA is now called the Risk Management Association, though most bankers still know it by the former name Robert Associates. BizMiner is a competing service. Both of those, you very well may have the RMA book in your library. BizMiner is a subscription service. BizStats is a free service that's online, bizstats.com. And BCRC is Business and Company Resource Center, which is, again, an online database, but it's a subscription database. An awful lot of libraries have it through their Gale subscriptions. What we ask them to look for there is, what's the typical sales for your kind of business? What kind of profits do they make? And you get some sense of how are they making their profits. Are they making it from sales? Are they making it from service contracts or things like that? And again, what's the trend for that kind of business? You might, when you start looking at these reports, it can be a bit daunting. But there's typically librarians with expertise in the business areas who are more than glad to help you find out how this works, where the databases are, and how do you connect your students to them. And what we always do is we try and help them look for convincing numbers, industries and businesses that are making money. With this information about the trend, the market size, the students are coming to you with the idea for the business they have. You can start to do things like idea competitions, and you have the fundamentals for doing a feasibility analysis. A feasibility analysis has you look at how likely is your idea to make a profitable business. And it's the real key, because a lot of the time the student's first idea isn't the best idea for making money. But as they get an idea of what to look for in what makes a successful business, or the kind of business where you can make a great living, you can move forward with that pretty quickly after the first time or two looking at an opportunity. The trick here, though, is how do companies make money? You're all familiar with McDonald's. Did you ever wonder how McDonald's makes their profits, their real profits? It turns out it has nothing to do with food. McDonald's makes their real profits from rentals. They own the property of McDonald's, and the cash flow from that property is where they actually make their money. Having a restaurant is an excuse for having the property. GMAC, General Motors, makes most of their profits from their finance division, not from actually making the cars. So in a lot of industries, it's important to know the secret of how profits are made. That's not on the databases. It's not on the internet. You actually have to go talk to people to find out how do you make profits in your industry. Folks in the industry will talk to a professor. They're glad to share their information with you. They'll even talk to your students because they see your students as the future of their industry. But you have to establish rapport. You have to establish trust. You only do that face-to-face. So one of the things I tell my students is when you're getting into this kind of process, it's a little bit like dating. Most of us are not great at that when we start out. We have to kind of work our way into what style works for us. And so I tell them, don't go immediately to the number one prospect for telling you about that industry. Start with people in that industry that you might know or feel a little more comfortable with. And start that process to get that discussion, figure out how you want to do that, and kind of work up to the person that you really want to talk to who has the real inside dope. Another sort of thing you can do is to go to the trade and professional associations. Let's stick with the restaurant for a second. A lot of restaurant owners belong to the National Restaurant Association, which has both a national meeting but has a lot of chapter meetings, state and even regional and city chapters. Going to that place, showing up as a student, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to become a restaurateur, a lot of restaurateurs will take you aside and start talking to you, say, come on over to the restaurant, I'll show you around, talk to you about it. And done that way, you can quickly get connections with people who are in the industry. Again, a lot of these people in any industry, and we're talking restaurants, but it applies to when you're talking about the graphic arts, web design, all the technical industries, things around manufacturing, consulting, and the like. The people who are in the industry actually want to see bright young people come into the industry. It makes them feel better about the future for their industry, and everyone wants to get the next generation to be the highest quality possible. As a professor, as a sort of a gateway to students, you have the opportunity to get your students, you might say, preferential early treatment. And these trade and professional associations really want to bring in that next generation. So work with them. Another key resource for your students and for you is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically Facebook for business people. And the goal there is to think about just being very open about accepting anyone as your contact. It pays off in remarkable ways. The latest one, I have a group of 3 young women in my class who want to start a fabric store for contemporary fabrics for women in their 20s and 30s who like to sew. That one had me stumped. I have no background in fabrics. I went on to LinkedIn, and it turns out that the friend of a friend on LinkedIn was a fabric designer for Macy's in New York, has come back to St. Louis, and is the exclusive wholesaler for 3 different fabric lines, and she knows all the contemporary fabric stores in town. I appealed to my friend, please connect me to this woman, and they did. She and I got on the phone. Actually, we were connected within about an hour, got on the phone, talked, and she's been working with my students as a mentor. Those kind of resources are just invaluable, and the interesting thing is on LinkedIn, it's free. Now, to give you an idea, I have over 3,000 connections. On Facebook, I got about 300, but on LinkedIn, 3,000, because I joined groups like the Open Networkers and the LinkedIn Lions, where I have people contacting me every day, please connect with me. So I have a network all over the world. One of the other things you do in a feasibility analysis, especially if you're going into an industry with competitors, is figure out who are my competitors and how are they doing. You can do a lot of the research actually online these days. Companies are very open about their business on their website. A neat thing to do is to go to a trade show where you can find thousands of people in an industry gathered together for a few days. It's a great place to talk, to find out how things are done in the industry. Talk to a person in the industry from a very different city than yours. A restaurateur in Denver probably isn't too worried about competition from a kid in St. Louis, so they'll be more open in that kind of situation. You can also do analyses of your competition, their products or services, using things like reviews, Yelp, and online reviews for the different services. With this information, then you know what the trend is, you know what the profits are and the trend for your profits and sales, you know where the profits are actually made, you know who your competitors are, what they're doing, and how they're doing things. With all of that, you've got pretty much the basics you need to do a true feasibility analysis and to figure out, is this business, is this industry the right one for you?